Swerdlow, and welcome to the podcast for April 2011 and for expansions.com. I want to bring you some updated information on stories that I've covered in the month of March, especially the second half of March. I wanted to especially talk about the Middle East, Russia, and what is going on with Putin and Netanyahu and the Saudi Arabian leaders. It's a very strange alliance, and in my news updates I call it strange bedfellows. But in fact, there's a reason behind it that you need to know, and I think the map behind me, a very famous world map, will be more of an explanation that you can see visually and you'll understand better. If we look at where Saudi Arabia is located, and then we look at Israel and Russia, if you drew a line between the two of them, it basically cuts Europe off from Asia. And so it's very convenient for the Russians, who are going to reform the Soviet Union, as I mentioned to you once before, to get a grip on this entire region, basically cutting off Europe and North Africa from the rest of Asia. If there's an alliance here, the US will have a very big difficulty in getting supplies across to other places in that part of the globe. But they do have a common enemy, as I had mentioned on my website. Both the Israelis, the Russians, and the Saudis are very worried about these Muslim uprisings across North Africa and the Middle East, because all three of those countries have an issue with the Muslim Brotherhood, who's seeking to control and create a new Islamic world order from Morocco all the way across to Indonesia. That is a huge chunk of territory when you look at it on the map. Indonesia being the largest or most populated Muslim country on earth with over 200 million people. And of course, second would be Egypt with over 80 million people. Keep your eyes on Morocco, because all of this area has already fallen to new governments. This is the only one that is still in the old regime. And we're seeing issues happening with Syria, Iran, and even Yemen and Bahrain. But the difference between those countries is they're just shooting their protesters in the street and killing them one by one. So over time, there's going to be less of those protesters in the street because they're shooting them to death. But what would Netanyahu and Putin and the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia want? What could they possibly be talking about? It could be that they are all threatened by nuclear Iran and by Islamic fundamentalists in the region, because Saudi Arabia has basically been controlled by one family for almost a century, and they don't want to give up their billions and trillions of dollars. So this could be an issue for them as time goes on. Keep your eyes on Russia and Israel and the Middle East. You're going to see new alliances form, and you're going to see especially Syria and Jordan change their governments drastically. On a follow-up to the stories in Florida about the rumblings, we talked about that last time, the sounds, those tremors. People have been calling in and emailing me about the windows rattling, noises, furniture shaking, that kind of thing. Well, just a couple of days ago, a woman walking in her backyard in Florida just fell through a hole. A hole just opened up in her backyard and she fell in. Fortunately, she had her cell phone, so she was able to call 911 and get emergency help. But interesting that these sinkholes are opening up now more than ever across Florida. Florida really being nothing more than the shelf of a limestone crate, if you will, that's starting to crumble and collapse as the tectonic plates around are moving and pushing the water. And Florida is just basically crumbling. Think of a very dry limestone chalkboard or chalk that's now getting wet and crumbling, and it's just falling apart and pieces are sinking in. And we're seeing this happen, and I think that's part of what the rumbling is that you hear across Florida. Interestingly, the insurance companies are raising their premiums across Florida for real estate because of the sinkholes, and they're worried that they won't be able to pay out money for large buildings, shopping centers, etc., that fall into holes that develop. Another story that's been on the news, and it's kind of a rumor buster, if you will, There's stories going on the internet about Vernathon Brown, who was, of course, head of NASA when they started in the 50s and 60s, and he was also in charge or created the V-2 rockets from Nazi Germany that destroyed London. And of course he was brought here under Project Paperclip secretly and became the head of NASA. Well, on his deathbed, supposedly, he revealed to his secretary that the US was going to stage an alien invasion at some time in the future, meaning our present, and that they would kill a lot of people and destroy a lot of cities with a bomb that would vaporize people, and it wasn't a nuclear bomb. So we can assume from what he was describing that it could have been a neutron bomb, one that may destroy people, living things, and leave the buildings intact. He also said that they would blame this attack on some secret alien race that was on the Earth or attacking the Earth, and therefore they would get away with bombing and destroying all kinds of things because people would think they were aliens. My feeling is that perhaps even if that story were true, I don't think they could quite get away with that now, people being aware of technology and knowing what the government is capable of doing. So I think, and I'm hoping, that that story may no longer be valid, but of course it remains to be seen. We've also noticed some very strange animal behavior around the world, as I've told you for many weeks and months now. The latest one being off the coast of Key West, Florida, where a woman on a tour boat with her family and children was watching stingrays jumping across the water when a huge 80-pound stingray flew out of the water, hit her on the head, knocked her to the bottom of the boat, and then kept jumping up and down on top of her, basically knocking her out. Of course, the stingray was trying to get back into the water. But according to the naturalists or the animal behavior experts that were accompanying this tour, they said this never happens, and it's like 1 in 2 million that could even occur, but yet there's been 2 such attacks in the last year. So the animals are starting to behave a bit differently now. Another animal or insect strange behavior has occurred along the Gold Coast of Eastern Australia, and there hundreds of thousands of freshwater water beetles are swarming all over the land, piling up in thousands of dead bodies along the beaches and along the roadways. Now, it's along the saltwater area that these are freshwater beetles. According to people and naturalists in the area, this is unheard of, unprecedented. It has never happened before in the history of Eastern Australia. So we have to really watch about these strange things happening. Also keep in mind that there are new alien movies being released from now through the end of July 2011, and that is of course because of the release of staged alien invasion information. Quick update on mental health. Radiation does tend to cause neuron reactions and problems in the body. I gave you some information last time about it. People are asking me about the white vinegar. No, you cannot use wine vinegar or rice vinegar. It must be white organic vinegar. Use a silver infinity when you do your chakra system. Use a silver infinity right through all of the chakras as you go through and spin them. And you could get blocks in your deprogramming techniques from the radiation in the atmosphere from Japan. So make sure you do your deprogramming in violet and with mirrors around the violet to reflect away the radiation. When you do your ultimate protection technique, make sure you put mirrors around the outside of that to reflect away any of the radiation. And so the other thing is with affirmations, I want to just give you a quick affirmation. For radiation, the mind pattern is decomposing of self, feeling like you're attacked from unseen energies, and the idea that your core self is disintegrating. So your affirmation is, I am now totally whole and secure at all times. My health is now perfect in every way. My mind, body, and spirit are now totally intact at all times. So until next time, This is Stewart A. Swerdlow for Expansions.com.
Hi, this is Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow. Greetings. I am going to show you some very simple things to make that will enhance your life, enhance your lifestyle, make you healthy, and on top of it all, you're going to enjoy it. Because healthy food needs to be good food. It needs to please the palate and the eye and everything about it in order for the mind to incorporate it. Because you're not really eating food, you really are eating frequency. So what makes you the happiest? Let's see. How about chocolate? Chocolate always makes people happy. So what I'm going to show you today to start with are some wonderful truffles that I'm making with 85% green and black organic chocolate. To start with, I'm going to turn my oven on. I have in here a half of stick of goat butter. I'm going to turn my oven on, or my stove top on, and let that melt for just a minute, but I want you to see this is Meyenberg goat milk butter. It's easier to digest than dairy products from cows. I just cut this in half so you have a half of stick, which is going to melt here very quickly. And in the meantime, I have 2 of the green and black bars, 85% organic chocolate. I am going to chop this up so it melts easier once I get that butter melted. Now, a lot of people don't realize it, but chocolate actually is a parasiticide, which means that it kills parasites in you. So that's another reason to eat chocolate. Besides, it's full of magnesium, and that is also extremely healthy for you. And what women often lack around their menstrual cycles, and that is why they crave chocolate. So I'm going to finish cutting this up for you. In just a second, my butter will be melted. So you can see, now some people don't like goat products. However, goat products in this, the goat butter, you cannot taste it. Does not give it a goaty flavor. Now here we usually eat very low carb as best as we can. You do need some carbohydrates in your diet, and so we will be doing some complex carbs, and I will be explaining things as we go along. We do eat low carb to put less stress on the body. You do need healthy fat, so you want to have plenty of healthy fat in your diet. Now, this is perfectly melted. We don't want it boiling, we just want it just hot enough so it will melt the chocolate. Chocolate is very delicate, and if you get it too hot, it will separate on you. So you just put the little chocolate chunks in there and you just let it melt. If by chance it's not, your butter cools and it stops melting, you can do one of 2 things. Sometimes people like having the little chips in their truffles, so you can leave it, or you can put it back very, very briefly on your stove top to let it melt. Get it to the consistency that you like it. This is your chocolate, your fun, your good stuff, your enjoyment in life, things that you deserve, so do it the way that you like it to be. Now this recipe with the chocolate, each bar has about 50 carbs. So that means there's a total of 100 carbs in this recipe. I also sometimes put a little bit of organic instant coffee in, about a half a teaspoon, and sometimes if you like that, you can put in more if you want to make it more mocha, but what it will do is it will help to bring out the chocolate flavor. So just enough to bring out the chocolate flavor, just a tiny bit. Looks like this is smoothing out really nicely. So once I have that melted to the way I like it, then the next thing I'm going to show you is 1 pint of organic heavy whipping cream. Shake it up. This is cow dairy, by the way, because I cannot get goat cream. And I just pour that in, and it's cold. I put it in one time accidentally, room temperature, and it did not turn out as well. So you can see it mixes in nicely with the chocolate. Now, once you have it mixed together, you can do a couple of things. You can put it in your refrigerator for a little bit of time. I usually don't have that kind of time, but if you're in a hurry, you can do that. It will set up, and it will be a little bit more challenging to work with when you are ready to put it on your sheet. What I've done beforehand for you is I've taken a cookie sheet, put a piece of wax paper. A lot of people don't use wax paper. You can use parchment paper if you have that instead. Piece of wax paper down. I have a spoon that I use all the time, and it measures out to approximately a half a teaspoon, but you know, in cooking it should be fun. I really don't believe in exact measurements when I do things. And then all you have to do, that's it. That's so simple. Unbelievable. You can take it, and I just put them down on paper. And I get about 70 of them out of this recipe. So you're talking, you know, a couple carbs each at most. And you can do them bigger if you want, but what I found out is that most people like to go back for seconds. So instead of doing a bunch of big ones, I do a bunch of small ones. People would rather have 3 and have 6 carbs versus one big one with 6 carbs, because I always want to go back for more. That just seems to be human nature. So what I'll do is I'll finish this all up. I will put it in the refrigerator and let it set for a few hours, and then you pick them up and they're ready to go. It's amazing dessert. It's very easy, very simple. It's delicious. It's actually healthy for you, low carb, and it's just, you can whip that up for a company anytime. You can keep in your refrigerator the butter, put that in the freezer. You can keep your cream in the refrigerator, and you can keep your chocolate bars in your pantry. So your ingredients are easy to have on hand. You can pull it out whenever you need it, or if you have a chocolate craving. This is much healthier for you than a Hershey's bar, which is like 60-70% wax and full of sugar. You want that healthy cocoa in your body. It's good for you, parasiticide, and it also makes you feel good. It releases good endorphins, full of magnesium. So that's our truffles. I'm going to set this aside. The next thing I want to show you is actually also very easy. This is feeding your desire for spring. These are spring greens, and this is something that not everybody likes or knows what to do with. These are actually organic dandelion greens. Now, you don't want to go pick them out in your backyard unless you know how to clean them, because you don't know what little creatures have been doing what on your dandelion greens. These I actually get at an organic store. They're very beautiful, they're very lush, and you notice I took them out of this pan of water. What I do before I use any of my vegetables, just on the safe side, is I have food grade hydrogen peroxide. I fill my tub with water, I put in a couple of ounces of food grade hydrogen peroxide, and this helps clean out the dirt, the sand, the mold, anything that's in there, little animal creepy crawlies, animal poopies, whatever might possibly be on your veggies, especially if they're out of your garden or out of your lawn. Okay, they're beautiful, very beautiful. You can see how lush they are. Now, because of the magic of television, I have over here a completed soup for you, because I have already talked to you about how to make your chicken stock just by taking your carcass from your chicken that you've had, or turkey. And when you're done, put it in the freezer. All your chicken bones, turkey bones, stick it in there. When you have time, put it on the stove, cover it up with water, and just let it boil. All the goodness comes out of the bones and the meat, and then you have wonderful, wonderful chicken stock and or turkey stock. You can blend those together. So that's what I've done. And actually I have the completed soup here, which is that chicken stock, and I am going to actually add some of these dandelion greens to it. And dandelion greens have a tendency to be a bit on the bitter side. So what I like to do is I take some uncured bacon, and I put in about a ½ pound in with about 2 to 4 quarts of chicken stock. I also add a few cloves of garlic. I like a lot of garlic in mine. I just put it on my stove and I simmer it. And when you're ready to serve, sea salt, a little ground pepper, if you might like a little Tabasco or hot sauce in there, and you're good to go. It's not bitter with the bacon. It's good for the dandelion greens, clean the liver. That's why a lot of times people call dandelions a spring tonic. So it's excellent for your liver and for all your visceral organs. It'll help to clean those out and get things flowing for you. So if you find organic dandelion greens in your grocery, pick some up, because it's just so wonderful this time of year. You'll be surprised at how much your body actually gets to craving this once it's found that taste again. So enjoy this along with some chocolate truffles for dessert. Join me next time when I am going to show you of some fun things. Among them, this is my famous homemade barbecued baked bean. I'll talk to you soon.